Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaho Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा.
Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chapter 1, the Advent of Lord Krishna. Once the world was overburdened by the universal defense force of different kings who were actually demons but were posing themselves as the royal order. At the time, the whole world became perturbed, and the predominating deity of this earth, known as Bhumi, went to see Lord Brahma to tell of her calamities due to the demonic kings. Bhumi assumed the shape of a cow and presented herself before Lord Brahma with tears in her eyes. She was braved and was weeping just to invoke the Lord's compassion. She released the calamitous position of the earth, and after hearing this, Lord Brahma became much aggrieved, and he at the once started for the ocean of milk where Lord Vishnu resides. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the demigods, headed by Lord Shiva, and Bhumi also followed. Arriving on the shore of the milk ocean, Lord Brahma began to specify Lord Vishnu, who had formerly saved the earthly planet by assuming the transcendental form of a boar. In the Vedic mantra, there is a particular type of prayer called Purusha Sukta. Generally, the demigods, after their obeisance unto Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by chanting the Purusha Sukta, it is understood herein that the predominating deity of every planet can see the Supreme Lord of this universe. Brahma, whenever there is some disturbance on his planet, and Brahma can approach the Supreme Lord Vishnu, not by seeing him directly, but by standing on the shore of the ocean of milk. There is planet within the universe called Svetadvipa, and on the planet there is a ocean of milk. It is understood from various Vedic literature that just as there is the ocean of salt water on this planet, there are various kinds of oceans on their planets. Somewhere there is an ocean of milk, somewhere there is a ocean of oil, and somewhere there are oceans of liquor and of many other types of liquids. The Purusha Sukta is the standard prayer which the demigods recites to appends the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shirodaka Sai Vishnu, because he is lying on the ocean of milk, he is called Shirodaka Sai Vishnu. He is the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through whom all the incarnation with this universe appear. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
After all the demigods offered the Purusha Sukta prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they apparently heard no response. Then Lord Brahma personally sat in meditation, and there was a message transmission from Lord Vishnu to Brahma. Brahma then broadcast the message to the demigods. that is the system of receiving Vedic knowledge. The Vedic knowledge is received first by Brahma from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of the heart, as stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Teni Brahma Hridaya Adi Kayave. The transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was transmitted to Lord Brahma through the heart. Here also, in the same way, only Brahma could understand the message transmitted by Lord Vishnu, and he broadcast it to demigods for their immediate action. The message was this: the Supreme Personality of Godhead would appear on the earth very soon, along with his supreme powerful potencies, and as long as he remained on the earth planet to execute his mission of an annihilating the demons, and establishing the devotees, the demigods should also remain there to assist him. They should also immediately take birth in the family of the Yadu dynasty, wherein the Lord would also appear in due course of time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna, would personally appear as the son of Vasudeva. Before his appearance, all the demigods, along with their wives, should appear in different years families in the world just to assist the Lord in executing his mission. The exact word used here is Tat Priyartam, which means the demigods should appear on the earth in order to please the Lord. In the other words, any living entity who lives only to satisfy the Lord is a demigod. The demigods were further informed that Ananta, the plenary portion of the Lord Krishna, who is maintaining the universal planets by extending his millions of foot, would also appear on earth before Lord Krishna's appearance. They were also informed that the external potency of Vishnu, Maya, with whom all the conditioned souls are enamored, would also appear by the order of the Supreme Lord just to execute his purpose.
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Radha Mataji.
After instructing and pacifying all the demigods as well as Bhumi with sweet words, Lord Brahma, the father of all Prajapatis or progenitors of the universal population, departed for his own abode, the highest material planet called Brahmaloka. The leader of the Yadu dynasty, King Shurasena, was ruling over the country known as Mathura, wherein lies the city of Mathura as well as the district known as Surasena, which was named after him. On account of the rule of King Shurasena, Mathura became the capital city of all the kings of the Yadus. Mathura was also made the capital of the kings of the Yadu dynasty because the Yadus were a very pious family and knew that Mathura is the place where Lord Sri Krishna lives eternally, just as he also lives in Dwarka. Once upon a time, Vasudeva, the son of Shurasena, just after marrying Devaki, was going home on his chariot with his newly wedded wife. The father of Devaki, known as Devaka, had contributed a sufficient dowry because he was very affectionate towards his daughter. He had contributed hundreds of chariots completely decorated with gold equipment. At that time, Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena, in order to please his sister Devaki, had voluntarily taken the reins of the horses of Vasudeva's chariot and was driving. According to the custom of the Vedic civilization, when a girl is married, the brother takes the sister and brother-in-law to their home because the newly married girl may feel too much separation from her father's family. The brother goes with her until she reaches her father-in-law's house. The full dowry contribution by Devaka was as follows: 400 elephants, fully decorated with golden garlands, 15,000 decorated horses, and 1,800 chariots. He also arranged for 200 beautiful girls to follow his daughter. The Kshatriya system of marriage, still current in India, dictates that when a Kshatriya is married, a few dozen of the bride's young girlfriends, in addition to the bride, go to the house of the king. The followers of the queen are called maid servants, but actually they act as friends of the queen. This practice is prevalent from time immemorial, traceable at least to the time before the advent of Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago. So, Vasudeva brought home another 200 beautiful girls along with his wife Devaki. Adena Mataji. Continue.
Jigna Mataji.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can you please darken the area from where
While
I
the bride.
Yeah. While the bridge and the bride, while the bride and bridegroom were passing along on the chariot, there were different kinds of musical instruments playing to indicate the auspicious moment. There were couch shell, bugles, drums, kettle drums combined together. They were vibrating a nice concert. The procession was passing very pleasantly, and Kamsa was driving the chariot. Then suddenly there was a miraculous sound vibrated from the sky that especially announced to Kamsa, Kamsa, you are such a fool. You are driving the chariot of your sister and your brother-in-law, but you don't know that the eighth child of this sister will kill you. Kamsa was the son of Ugrasena of Bhoj dynasty, of the Bhoj dynasty. It is said that Kamsa was the most demonic of all the Bhoja dynastic king. Immediately after hearing the prophecy from the sky, he caught the hold of Devaki hair and was just about to kill her with his sword. Vasudeva was astonished at Kamsa's behavior, and in order to pacify the cruel, shameless brother-in-law, he began to speak as follows. With great reason and in evidence, he said, my dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the most famous king of Bhoja dynasty, and people know you are the greatest warrior and a violent king. How is it that you are so infuriated that you are prepared to kill a woman who is your sister, and at this auspicious time of her marriage? Why should you be so much afraid of death? Death is already born along with your birth. From the very day you took your birth, you began to die. Suppose you are 25 years old, then that means you have already have already the very day you took the birth, you already died 20 years, 25 years. Every moment, every second you are dying. Why then should you be so much afraid of death? Finally, death is inevitable. You should die either today or 100 years. You cannot avoid death. Why should you be so final death is inevitable? You may die either today or in 100 years. You cannot avoid death. Why should you be, sorry, I repeated. Why should be so much afraid? Actually, death means annihilation of the present body. As soon as the present body stops functioning and mixes with the 5 elements of the material nature, the living entity within the body accepts another body according to his present action and reaction. It is just like when a man walks on the street, he puts forward his foot, and when he is confident that his foot is situated on sound ground, he lifts the other foot. In this way, one after another, the bodies changes and soul transmigrate. See how the plant's worm changes from one twig to another so carefully. Similarly, the living entity changes his body as soon as the higher authorities decide to his next body. As soon as a living entity is conditioned without this material world, he must take material bodies one after another. His next particular body is offered by the law of nature according to the action and reaction of this life. Mataji,
Hare
should I
Krishna.
no, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Kasturi Mataji. Malika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
This body is exactly like one of the bodies which we always see in dreams. During our dream of sleep, we create so many bodies according to mental creation. We have seen gold and we have also seen a mountain. So in a dream, we can see a golden mountain by comparing the two ideas. Sometimes in dreams, we see that we have a body which is flying in the sky, and at that time we completely forget our present body. Similarly, these bodies are changing. When you have one body, you forget the past body. During a dream, we may make contact with so many new kinds of bodies, but when we are awake, we forget them all. And actually, these material bodies are the creations of our mental activities. But that present moment, we do not recollect our past bodies. The nature of the mind is flickering. Sometimes it accepts something and immediately it rejects the same thing. Accepting the rejecting is the process of the mind in contact with the 5 objects of sense gratification: form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. In its speculative way, the mind comes in touch with the objects of sense gratification, and when smell, sound, in touch, and when the living entity and desires a particular type of body, he gets it. Therefore, the body is an offering by the laws of material nature. The living entity accepts a body and comes out again into the material world to enjoy or suffer according to the construction of the body. Unless we have a particular type of body, we cannot enjoy or suffer according to our mental proclivities. Mataji, proclivities inherited from the previous life. The particular type of body is actually offered to us according to our mental condition at the time of death. The luminous planets like the sun, moon, or stars reflect themselves in different types of reservoirs like water, oil, or ghee. The reflection moves according to the movement of the reservoir. The reflection of the moon is on the water, and the moving water makes the moon also appear to be moving, but actually the moon is not moving. Similarly, by mental contaction, the living entity attains different kinds of bodies, although actually he has no connection with such bodies, but an account of illusion, being enchanted by the influence of Maya. The living entity thinks that he belongs to a particular type of body. This is the way of conditioned life. Suppose a living entity is now a human form of body. He thinks that he belongs to the human community or a particular country or particular place. He identifies himself in that way and unnecessarily prepares for another body, which is not required by him. Such desires and mental concoctions are the cause of different types of bodies. The covering influence of material nature is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in whatever body he gets, that he identifies with that body with great pleasure. Therefore, I beg to request you to not to be overwhelmed by the dictation of your mind and body. Continue.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Shri Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Vasudeva was thus requested Kamsa not to be envious of his newly married sister. One should not be envious of anyone because envy is the cause of fear both in this world and in the next. When one is before Yamaraja, Lord of punishment after death, Vasudeva stating that she was his younger sister. He also appealed at an auspicious moment at the time of marriage. A younger sister or brother is supposed to be protected as one's child. The position is overall so delicate. Vasudeva reasoned that if you kill her, it will go against your high reputation. In this way, Vasudeva tried to pacify Kamsa by good instruction as well as by philosophical discrimination. But Kamsa was not to be pacified because his association was demoniac. Because of his demoniac association, he was a demon, although born in a very high royal family. A demon never cares for any good instruction. He is just like a determined thief. One can give him a moral instruction, but it will not be effective. Similarly, those who are demoniac or aesthetic by nature can hardly assimilate any good instruction, however authorized it may be. That is the difference between the demigods and demons. Those who can accept good instruction and try to live their lives in that way are called demigods, and those who are unable to take such good instructions are called demons. Failing in his attempt to pacify Kamsa, Vasudeva wondered how he would protect his wife, Devaki. When there is imminent danger, an intelligent person should try to sorry
Avoid
we should
dangerous.
avoid dangerous position as far as possible. But if in spite of enduring by an intelligence, one fails to avoid the dangerous position, there is no fault of on his part. One should try his best to execute his duties. But if the attempt fails, he is not at fault.
Hare
Vasudeva
Krishna.
thought of Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sinchana.
Yeah, Mataji. Vasudeva thought of his wife as follows for the present. Let me save the life of Devaki. Then later on, if there are children, I shall see how to save them. He further thought, if in the future I get a child who can kill Kamsa, just as Kamsa is thinking, then both Devaki and the child will be saved because the law of providence is inconceivable. But now, some way or other, let me save the life of Devaki. There is no certainty how a living thing contacts a certain type of body, just as there is no certainty how a blazing fire comes in contact with a certain type of body. The influence by the influence of the wind. Similarly, a living entity may be very careful in the matter of executing his duties, but it, it is still very difficult for him to know what type of body he is going to get in the next life. Maharaja Bharata was very faithfully executing the duties of self realization, but by chance he developed temporary affection for a deer, and in his next life he had to accept the body of a deer.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Yashasvi.
Krishna Mata.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Vasudeva, after deliberating on how to save his wife, began to speak to Kamsa with great respect. Although Kamsa was the most sinful man, sometimes it happens that a most virtuous person like Vasudeva has to flatter a person like Kamsa, a most vicious person. That is the way of all diplomatic transactions. Although Vasudeva was deeply aggrieved, he smiled outwardly. He addressed the shameless Kamsa in the way because he was so atrocious. Vasudeva said to Kamsa, "My dear brother-in-law, please consider that you have no danger from your sister. You are awaiting some danger because you have heard a prophetic voice in the sky. But the danger is to come from the sons of your sister who are not present now. And who knows, there may or may not be sons in the future. Considering all this, you are safe for the present. Nor is there cause of fear from your sister. If there are any sons born of her, I promise that I shall present all of them to you for necessary action." Kamsa knew the value of Vasudeva's word of honor, and he was convinced by his argument. For the time being, he desisted from the heinous killing of his sister. Thus, Vasudeva was pleased and praised the decision of Kamsa. In this way, he returned to his home.
Hare Krishna. Prema
Hare
Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Each year thereafter, in due course of time, Devaki gave birth to a child. Thus, she gave birth to 8 male children as well as 1 daughter. When the first son was born, Vasudeva kept his word of honor and immediately brought the child before Kamsa. It is said that Vasudeva was very much elevated and famous for his word of honor, and he wanted to maintain this fame. Although it was very painful for Vasudeva to hand over the newly born child, Krishna was very glad to receive him, but he became a little compassionate with the behavior of Vasudeva. This event is very exemplary for a great soul like Vasudeva. There is nothing considered to be painful in the course of discharging one's duty. A learned person like Vasudeva carries out of his duties without hesitation. On the other hand, a demon like Kamsa never
Hesitates. Hare Krishna.